Roll call, please.
Mr. Carlo?
Hold on, this is yelling at me. Did you do something?
No.
I saw you playing.
I put Natalie in.
Oh, that's
Who's yours?
okay.
Ready? Mr. DeCarlo?
Here?
Mr. Hoffman?
Here.
Mr. Condit?
Here.
Mr. Molina,
Here.
Mr. Silverston?
Here.
Mr. Walter?
Here.
Approval of meeting minutes for July 8th, 2014.
So moved.
Second?
Roll call on approval of minutes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Abstain.
Mr. Silverston?
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Amendments to the agenda.
Yes, I have two amendments for consideration. The first is resolution 59, 2014. A resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into and execute an agreement with Kevin Ada for website design redevelopment of Reminderville.com for a sum not to exceed $5,000.
Second?
Roll call on the first amendment.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Silverston?
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
And the second resolution is for consideration is resolution 60, 2014. A resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into and execute an agreement for the purchase of real property located at 10591 Georgia Street, Reminderville, Ohio, for a sum not to exceed $50,000.
Second?
Roll call on resolution 60.
Mr. Molina,
Yes.
Mr. Silverston?
Yes.
Mr. Walter?
Yes.
Mr. DeCarlo?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mr. Condit?
Yes.
Okay, before we go into the reports, and the mayor will not be here tonight. Mr. Harry Fields Jr. is here to answer any questions on the demo plaza.
Hi. My name's Harry Giltz. I was here earlier when the original bid process was going on for the rec center. And I was asked to explain, go over some questions that you may have as it relates to the demolition of the current building and what's kind of from where we started from to where we're at now. And when we were originally bidding the entire project, a couple of the components that subcontractors had bid was the scope of work that was given to the initial demolition contractor was to demolish the structure. On this set of plans, it was submitted earlier, but all the shaded area was to remain. And currently, now this is the part that is going to remain, where the snaps is and behind it. So that a little bit, that scope of work changed from what is actually being demoed today. And then the other part of it is that when the electrical contractors gave bids to do the project, they gave the bids from basically the beginning where the transformer is behind the shopping center now, running it over to the rec center. Inside here, we have a house meter, there's a switch gear for the power, there's a transformer, it's 223 phase in the back. Right now, as it's being contemplated, we have like two options. One, it can be either relocated in the back or where the rec center will be, and they'll house their own meter room for their own use, but also there will be a common access point for the house lights, parking lots that are shared in common with the other drug mart and other tenants there. The option that we've had, and we've gone back, is that we have an option of moving it over behind hooks, and you kind of build a doghouse on the back of it, a watertight doghouse, and that's where you put your switch gear in there, just solely for the house panels.
Is that for the entire facility, or is that for the facility
That's the
besides rec center, or?
Yes, that's, the house meter is just strictly for all the parking lot lighting, canopy lighting that may be underneath in the sidewalk areas. The problem that both have is that the power that's ran there now, you almost have to create wherever it's going to be, because you, when a swimming pool's right now being contemplated or to be located, it would be underneath where the service currently is, so you have to relocate that whole new line. Whether or not you put it over here, or whether or not you move it over here. That is probably singularly the biggest expense. Our electrical contractors had it in the original bid to do it, and so the scope of the work, you just say, hey, we're gonna demo this, we have to deal with the electric. You just can't leave a tower in the middle of it without it being watertight around it. The second part of it was in the mechanicals was the sprinkler system. The building on that side is completely separate. It is independently sprinkled from, it's two separate buildings. So this was a complete separate sprinkler system. The original contractor, seeing that the work would start almost immediately, tear things down, he was actually going to reuse and utilize a lot of the piping, the main trunks for the lines there. There's like I guess a period of time where once you take the pipes out, you have really so much time before they actually start to corrode, and you just really don't want to let them sit and reuse them. They're being reinstalled, and it's had a short life right now, and I don't think you can find any corrosion in there, but they just sit, they'll corrode. So the thought is now to terminate at the riser. Go ahead and terminate the riser, the key components of it, all the shut-offs, the valves, the whole system, and drop off at the fire station, and the remainder of the piping gets put into the demolition pile. So those are probably some of the key components that change when it's not being done maybe all at once there. But it has to be done regardless. So I mean, an electrical contractor, in our scope of work, he had it as an add to the construction side of it's now a deduct. But when we add it into the demolition costs have now gone up to do it all at one time, and what would be left is everything highlighted in blue is the outline of the building is torn down to essentially the footers. The footers will actually remain. The 3 or 4 courses of block just get scraped into it. You get into your subgrade there, and this is all that's remaining, and it's boarded up. So this side here won't remain exposed. There won't be any part of the building that would be exposed to the public to be able to walk in during the time this construction is going on. It would be boarded up a minimum of 12 feet high plywood, so that you wouldn't have access into this area. So that's really the gist of kind of where it's at right now to start demolition now. And so that was really, I wanted to have some clarity. I don't know, Terry talked to the architect about revising the plan to reflect in detail what's all going to be encompassed on that. But there was a couple moving pieces that were going on there.
You know, we're saving the glass, aren't we?
You're saving as much of the glass that you're going to reutilize. Now, all that glass, initially a lot of that is being, once you repurposed, whether or not it was just the glass panels or all the mullions and everything else. It all comes out as one component, and then you separate them all out. You can make whatever you need on it. So, yeah, the answer is the glass is yours. However we decide to either store it, whether it's stored inside, outside, or whatever, but they have to be pulled out of the, kind of as one component there.
So has the pricing changed at all? I think that was one of our problems from last time, is that it went from one number to, and we built in the sprinkler system costs, and it just has changed a few times, and like you said, it's kind of fluid, but I mean, we approved it thinking it was going to be like $40,000 or $45,000, and then it bumped up, and so.
We've always excluded in our demo any of the electrical services.
Yep.
Electrical services, however we go, it's an expensive ticket. You're bringing your primary in from your transformer, one direction or the other. The one that's inside still has to be retrenched because that's the termination point for all the current one. So, I mean, all the parking lot lighting goes basically through this building and ends on this back wall. From that back wall, then we have to retrench one direction or the other to get to the end point. And then from the back, then we have to run a whole new primary line into that.
Does that have to be done at the time of?
To demo it does. If you don't do it really, or have a plan to do it prior to construction, you'll end up with.
No, I understand prior to construction, but does it have to be done during demolition? Can demo be done and then we figure out what's gonna be the most cost effective way and what's the best place to put the electrical?
Really no.
Because you said it needs to be watertight.
Yeah, it needs to be enclosed. I mean, it's on right now a back interior wall where the roof is covering it and there's nothing in there.
But the footers are gonna be preserved. How much wall do we have to preserve to keep the electrical service there?
Well, we thought about that. If we decide to say, let's just go in and tear down the walls and build a temporary doghouse, right where the meter stands now, you kind of saw cut around the wall that it's at, and the slab and block and watertight that way. That's an option too. It definitely gives you the flexibility to say, now let's move it at some later point.
My whole concern that I brought up was we originally received a bid, 42,000 or whatever it was, a couple months ago, for demolition. That's really all it says, demolition. I guess my definition of demolition is everything it takes to do demolition. We thought that was a great price, so we went ahead and we voted for it. Then, last month, all of a sudden, demolition didn't mean complete demolition. We got this bill, which more than doubles the total demolition price, at least what I consider total demolition. My concern was, what's going to come up next? Now we're going to get another PO to fix the roof line, because the roof line is going to change. We don't have any scope of work with what these bids entail, and to make sure that we don't have more extras and more change orders. That was my concern.
That first bid though, I want to say it specifically excluded the mechanicals on it. And if it didn't, and maybe it was in an email format attached to it.
Yeah, we were supposed to get something from somebody about that, and I have yet to see it. Supposedly there is something, but I haven't seen it.
Well, the scope of work has changed to some degree. Like, and if you just said the demolition, when we were doing, say, the entire project, the demolition contractor never was bidding a relocation of the power service. He was never bidding anything to do with the sprinkler system. Now, the sprinkler system, any way you look at it, it saves the city money, but unfortunately, it's labor that a guy comes in there and dismantles everything and essentially brings the equipment to the firehouse, and it's stored there until a later date.
I guess it kind of goes to what Mark said. Could you do the demo without doing all this electrical? Because if you can't, then it should have been all one quote. If you can't do them separate, I mean, if you can't tear the building down without doing the electrical, why wasn't it one quote? Why did we get surprised with this $50,000 quote? That's what I was a little upset about.
And I get it, but if you tell a guy, hey, throw everything, tear everything down the bulldozer, throw it back in the pickup truck and get rid of it, that's what his demolition bid is. I mean, in this case here, his scope of work originally was no mechanical. And we were dismantling a lot of that building before he was even in there. I mean, the sprinkler guy alone had earmarked almost 4 weeks of just dismantling the whole sprinkler system. We were basically giving him, his bid, the sprinkler number was lower than the original construction cost because he was reusing much of it. I mean, the scope, if you were just going right from demolition to construction, you reuse it. You can all of a sudden go in there and you realize how long your trunks are, and you can preserve a lot of that and save some money in the long run. So at the end of the day, I mean, there's a little bit more being torn down at this point here than there was originally. Just plans changed somewhat. You're talking probably small dollars, maybe $6,000-8,000 difference worth of demolition dollars on it, but that's about the extent of it. To answer your question now, if you do the doghouse on the interior, it drops down considerably. I want to say you're probably dropped down $25,000 just by building a temporary house there. And then the sprinkler system, I don't have a hard number where if the city said, I want you to take from the floor to the main trunk to give me every 6-inch piece of pipe. There's definitely, I mean, when you get into the small runs, they were gonna get pitched anyways. But the bigger trunks, there's value in them if they're to be preserved.
So this resolution we have on the table right now for $49,200, there's really nothing we can do with it because we don't know the scope of work yet. Is that what you're saying? Because we don't know where the electricals will go, where the doghouse is gonna go, we really don't know anything yet.
Well, if you decide, I wanna, between, and maybe this is the first time you've heard of different options on it, but that was all, Dave Ponte, the architect, I think he has been working with the mayor. And the part of the house meter inside the rec center, and again, it's not that it's a big deal, but the house meter would have its own independent door, and so the thought was maybe the rec center doesn't want a house meter at all in there, even though I don't think it's, in my mind, a big issue, but it may be better in a doghouse, but it was originally designed to be on that back wall where it currently is.
No, I understand that. Because there are still things up in the air, we really can't even vote on this yet. Because we don't know. So this price could change, could go up, could go down.
Well, this piece of legislation is at first reading. And, which means that we've got,
It would be second.
It's in second reading.
It'd be second.
right? Which means that, we've got until, our first meeting in, September to come to,
Or second August. Yeah, I'm sure we'll have.
Yeah.
well, we don't have to decide it.
Right.
But the point being this is, I think that what we need to do is to get together our questions.
We need to get the final thing from the architect for you, is what we really need to do for us.
In truth, I wasn't asking you to, I was kind of picturing it be like this, just a
Discussion.
yeah, a discussion to
Sure.
find out really how everybody would like to proceed. And, I mean, we're flexible in doing it anyway. At some point, the electrical will have to be addressed. It doesn't necessarily have
We
to
just
be.
need to know how we want to do it.
I mean, I guess that, going back to what I originally said and what to follow the town, I mean, I guess that's what's frustrating. We just want to see a number. What is the number?
But he doesn't know enough information to give us.
Well, someone needs to figure
Yeah,
that
exactly.
out.
Yeah.
For a layman like myself.
Do we have to be concerned that if it goes any more above the 49,000, we're in territory that we have to go out and get bids?
We're already,
Yes,
absolutely.
And I question whether combining the two jobs together, if someone challenges us on that, that's one job and we're already over the 50,000, am I right?
If you make a determination that both of these jobs together constitute a tearing down of the building, then you're gonna be over $50,000. And if it's over $50,000 for that job, you have to bid it.
And if we don't make that determination and we decide that we want to keep them as separate, can we do that?
I will say it again, it is deemed to be the same job, part and parcel
I
of the same
understand.
job, no matter if you do it
Yeah.
2 months later.
Well,
If
it's all
it's
the
still
same.
part of the same job.
But it's all part of the same job, demolition, building the
Well,
They're
building.
not the same thing.
It doesn't have to be.
Demolition's not the same as construction.
Well, plus demolition is getting rid of all that stuff, whereas this is a tear down and you're keeping it, so.
Well, what we could do is we could pay with this reclamation of the sprinkler system.
Yeah, I don't know what all is involved in here, but, you know, it's not very difficult. It doesn't call for a legal opinion. The definition of demolition is the same in layman's terms as it is in legal terms, so This is a determination that each of you has to make, whether this is part and parcel of a demolition. And if it is over $50,000, if you deem it to be one job, or some kind of attempt to circumvent it, you are required to bid it.
Even though I thought, in my definition of demo, that this should be a part of it, if you think logically about it, it really isn't part of demo. The demo is demoing the building that you're not gonna be using. This is just moving services
I get it.
that you're still gonna be using, but you gotta move it because of the demo. So it really is two different things, even though I thought it was part, it had to be done because of demo, but it's not demo, I guess, for lack of.
I would like to make this comment, and I think it's great that we're being so careful here in making sure that we're getting our bid process according to oil, and that we're fully understanding what the costs are going to be. That's our job. But we better realize that on October 15th of next year, we are going to be getting a bill every month. And if that building isn't up, and we don't have people entering in there, we are going to be in heap of trouble. So whatever we do, we better keep in mind that we've got to keep this thing moving along and not slow walk this, because if we slow walk it, we are going to be, I think we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
I agree.
I think it all stems from the architect. We gotta get a final verdict from him of what we're doing.
And everybody should have had in their mailboxes the proposal from the county. That's something we discuss later in full business. So we can get this legislation passed. That's what we feel we need to do.
I think we need to do it just for everybody's sake, for them, for, you know, your sake and our sake. Yeah, absolutely.
Once this is done, then we can move along.
Then we
with
can,
plans
and then we can get everybody to move.
I don't disagree. I mean, if there's any other questions, I'd be happy to answer anything. Yeah.
Anybody else?
I think there was some good clarification.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you very much.
Harry, we're not arguing with you, we're just trying to understand.
Yeah.
I'm on the same team. I want, whatever the city's doing in the best interest of the city.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go into committee reports. Mr. Carpenter.
I have nothing to report.
Terry, engineering.
Okay, I just have a few things. I'm sorry I wasn't able to turn off the report or turner's commissioner now. Fix that tomorrow. For the rec center, I just want to let you guys know that Gene is meeting with Pontia on Thursday. Obviously we'll have some more information at that time, but really need to consider the Pontia quote there, because obviously we're not going to receive any more drawings or anything until he's actually hired as an architect. So I guess that was really the message that Gene wanted to get across as far as the rec center. Really can't move forward until that piece is in place. So. The Nautilus project, they poured the sidewalks on the north side of the street last week. They are pouring the south side this week. Then proceeding with the backfilling. Originally, the south side of the street was not going to be completely replaced, but driving down through there, it was really going to be an eyesore, just having a few pieces of the old sidewalk once we
Sorry, folks.
Every time.
once we removed the pieces that were damaged during the water line replacement, it really was an eyesore to just have a couple pieces here and there. So replacing the sidewalk on the south side enabled us to fix some drainage issues on that side of the street as well. We were able to level out the sidewalk and grade it to where it would push the water towards the drainage system that was just installed. So it'll help not only look better, but manage the water better. Regatta Trail, we will be rebidding that in September. Harrington, they have taken care of the signs on Colmenar and Ivy. The sidewalks have been installed in phase 4 and 5, and the drainage issues, they are a couple steps closer to resolving those. There's still one resident over there that's holding out on that, but we are getting closer to resolving all the drainage issues.
They're still held up on the next phase.
Yes, we have not scheduled the next planning commission meeting for phase 7 until that drainage issue is complete.
And it's the same guy?
Yes. That's all I had.
Do you know what their next plan of attack is with that one?
The 3 houses that are north of him, we were able to work it out to where the one house accepted a catch basin, so there are 3 houses draining into catch basin north of the house that's holding out. The 3 houses that are east of that house, they have all agreed to tie their rear downspouts into the front of the house.
So they're pumping, right?
Yeah. So we just have that corner house to deal with this way.
Any other questions, Mr. I do want to say that with the heavy rains we've had the last few days, and the catch basin's open now on Nautilus in the new stretch, we have water back up at the entrance to the shores. There's no water standing. It seems either the ditches seem to be flowing, it hasn't risen since this completion, so hopefully we've added some positive improvements to the drainage system. Thank you, Karen. Thank you. Deborah?
Sorry. I have 2 items. One, just to let everyone know that the 2012 and 13 audits actually began today. The auditors were here in the office and plan to be here for a week and a half to 2 weeks, and plan to have it filed with the state by the end of August. So far so good after 1 day. And then the second item is I received notification from Rita today that they sent out to Reminderville residents delinquency income tax letters, and said that there are 619 residents of Reminderville who are delinquent in paying their taxes. Yeah. So the other thing that we're doing is a subpoena program beginning of October, and so I'm assuming that same 619, if they don't take care of the issue before then, will receive a subpoena. They'll be subpoenaed to come to Village Hall, and Rita will have employees here helping them to file their RITA form, income tax form, and collecting some taxes. And we also started our budgeting process today with Finance Committee. Does anyone have any questions? That's all I have.
Thank you, Deborah. Chief Buck?
The only thing I have is the new vehicle is in service. We've got it in. There's a few things that are still waiting to be delivered, but for practical purposes, it's in service and control. The rec committee, if they could let me know about the Halloween party and how we want to proceed. Are we going to do it? Is it going to be the Saturday for Halloween?
Yeah, I think that's the 25th.
Yeah, so on and so forth. We'd like to know so we can get rolling on that. And that's all I have.
I have one thing, and from what I'm understanding is it's already been addressed by your guys. Now that Nautilus is open both ways, speed has really picked up on it. And I know there's been a lot of concern with residents in that section where they're running out and flagging cars down and trying to stop them, and they're putting cones out in the road.
Yeah, we've done 2 traffic, I'm going to say studies on that over the course of the last couple weeks, and the fastest vehicle that was traveling down those roads at any time of the day was 27 miles an hour. including the garbage trucks. So when they call and say it's going 50, it just really isn't going 50.
Okay, I'm just passing it along.
All right, I'll let you know we're out there doing our thing with the new radars.
Chief, is it presuming that people are putting traffic cones out and running out into the street to stop cars? That's obviously a hazard.
Do you watch NASCAR?
Yeah, exactly.
We prefer that the residents don't run out into traffic and throw rocks at cars and put cones up. That's something.
Thanks.
Thanks. Chief Plunkett?
The only thing I've got is we've got a meeting scheduled with the Civil Service Commission this week to discuss the arrangements for our entrance test. We're going to be putting on an entrance test for new recruits for the civilians sometime this fall.
Do you have openings right now?
One.
And you're full
But
of
they-
used up?
There is an existing list right now, but there's only 4 or 5 candidates left on it, and they've been reviewed already, and the qualifications are not that great. Civil service laws allow us to give a new test if the other one has been, your candidate on there has been evaluated. There's essentially no other viable candidates. Although the time frame is still not 1 year, it hasn't been used up, you can give another test. That's partially what the meeting's about, to make sure we're doing it right, there's no issues.
Okay. Thank you. Architectural Board of Review?
At our last meeting, we passed 3 decks, 1 dock, and 1 storage addition. And the season seems to be winding down. That's it.
Thank you. Planning and zoning, board voted forward with zoning appeals.
We've got on 714, and we had a patio that we approved that was in Harrington.
Thank you, Jeff. Finance,
Finance met today at 5:30. We recommended payments in the amount of $381,822.03. Like 40% of that was the payment to Twin Township for the jet portion. Our next meeting will also be at 5:30 to continue our budget discussions, which is September 9th.
So are they at 5:30 until the budget is done, or for the foreseeable?
We should, we're hoping to finish it that next meeting, and I don't know if we're gonna recommend to council that evening or digest it for another, haven't figured that part out
the
yet.
budget one will be 2 meetings, we'll back to 2 meetings.
Right.
Right. In 2 weeks, we can, that we can get it done.
Right.
And do you mind kind of just bringing up what Walt and I had asked you, maybe just so
Yeah,
we
so-
all know the plan here?
So this year,
Hopefully this is the
you know,
plan
we're
moving
really
forward.
trying to do it the way the charter spells it out, where the finance committee is the first to see the budget, and they recommend the budget to council. So that's what we're doing. It was presented to finance today for the first time, and so finance is going through it line item by line item, basically like it used to just be council at first. And the chiefs, you know, gave their little opening statements and discussions, and department head, Bob Road was here also. And so once,
I turned it off.
so once the finance committee is done going through everything and they, you know, we're good with what it is, we'll recommend it to council, and then council will start deliberating over the budget. And they can either accept all the recommendations, or they can change it, and then that'll be it.
Thank you, Tom. Cable,
I have nothing to report.
communications,
Communications met last Monday. Primarily the topic of conversation was the website, which a resolution on the table today. If anyone has any questions, I'd be more than happy to ask. Be more than happy to answer any questions. Kevin's a local guy who the communications committee all feels pretty comfortable with. If anyone wants to see kind of what the template's gonna look like, we're gonna be using something similar to what More Than Homes uses. So if you wanna go to the website, again, it's not gonna look, it's gonna kind of be this template, this layout, and we're gonna obviously populate it for the village, but if you wanna kind of get a sense of what it's gonna look like, check out morethanhomes.com. But our next meeting is the first Monday in September. Or no, second. Kidding, second. First is like that. The 8th.
Thanks, Tom. Long-term community development. Recreation.
Oh, Chief, the only thing we discussed so far about Halloween was the Saturday before, and I think that was the 25th. Pretty much, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. It went great, so we're hoping to do it the way we always do. I'll talk to you in private.
Okay, let me know, thank you.
I would like to just mention Resolution 58 about donating $1,600 to the Aurora Shores Housing Association to help cover the expenses for this past 4th of July. I know we had discussed it at our last regular meeting, and I blame myself a lot because we didn't know the proper procedure. The committee was under the impression that if they had the money in the budget, if they voted to do something with it, like donate it to the homeowners association, it was a done deal, and they didn't realize it had to be presented before council first. I wasn't at that meeting when they passed that, and I wasn't aware until after our last council meeting, when I went to the next rep meeting, that they had already gone ahead and told Phyllis Gafford that they had voted for the money and the money was coming. And I also wasn't aware that the flyers were, it said, sponsored by the Homeowners Association and the Reminderville Parks and Recreation Committee. And our committee unanimously felt that it should be brought before council for a vote. And that's why you find Resolution 58 there. I think it's a good investment in turning the 4th of July into more of a community event and less of a shores event. And, well, like I said, it's on there for vote. First reading. We'll meet again next Wednesday. I think that's the 20th.
Are they anxious? How anxious are they if they thought they were getting the money before?
Phyllis hasn't contacted me. I personally don't see an urgency right now. I mean, it's not like somebody's come to me and said, hey, we can't pay for the balloons or the tent because we didn't get that money.
All right.
Thank you, Mark. Records.
No more.
Seniors.
Seniors, my spring went blank. Seniors had lunch today at the Tomato Grill in Hudson with 11 seniors and 2 preteens, which I assume means grandkids. Okay. Next breakfast will be August 27th at the Original Pancake, that's also in Hudson?
Pardon?
The Original Pancake, our next
No,
lunch?
that's
Is that the Great Boulevard?
Pardon me?
That's in Beechwood.
In Beechwood, I'm
It's the
sorry.
best bacon in the city.
Really? And the annual senior picnic will be on September 15th. And that's it.
Thank you. Chad?
Jared's next meeting is Tuesday, September 9th at 7 PM here at the Village Hall.
Okay, that's not, is that what it is?
That's,
Oh.
that's council.
That's good.
Second, September 2nd is the jet, sorry.
First Tuesday.
First Tuesday, yeah. That's it?
Thank you. Going to legislation, tabled legislation remains tabled. Ordinance 14/2014, an ordinance to approve and adopt revised heritage law policies and procedures, third reading. Ordinance 16/2014, an emergency ordinance to make appropriation adjustments for the 2014 village budget and declaring an emergency, second reading. Ordinance 18/2014, an ordinance to transfer $70,555.25 From the general fund, 10,000, to the USDA bond retirement fund, 3101, declaring an emergency, first reading. Resolution 55, 2014, a resolution to accept the proposal of Commercial Property Maintenance LLC to complete the termination of the existing electrical system, to relocate and install a new meter at the corner of Brooks Restaurant, and to disassemble the sprinkler system on village property located at the DDM Center, 3100 Glenwood Boulevard, Reminderville, Ohio, for an amount not to exceed $49,200, second reading.
So that is moving the electrical as one of those options that you talked about earlier?
That was what was originally presented, and I think through our discussion today here, I think we were going to see if Pontiel, I guess he's having a meeting Thursday.
And that's fine, I mean, I know where you're going, I guess I was confused because I thought earlier you said the electrical was kind of a little separate.
No, from the very first demo.
There was two different.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, gotcha.
But we are going to vote on this resolution without the deficit figures at this point.
Amen.
No, and we're at second reading right now.
Yeah, so just hold on.
Could I add something to the discussion? When we read this Poncho proposal, read closely section 8 titled Consulting Services, because there's a whole bunch of exclusions. The following services are anticipated to be required and are not part of this proposal.
Right.
Pool consultant in civil engineering. Civil engineering is designed as site utilities shall be coordinated with building connections along with work outside of the building line. And that would be the electrical. The following services are not included. F and E, I don't know what that is. Interior color finish selection, audio visual, security, kitchen food service, landscape design, and laundry. There's a lot of stuff that they're not doing. And the pool consultant was a huge cost of the original proposal.
Right, but he did specifically say when he was here that day that we would have to find a consultant.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is this, is that, remember that, we have to find our own.
Well, and I wonder if any of these, I don't know if we have to get Joe back for the environmental consulting or what, but, I mean, I wonder if any of these can be handled by Gene and his crew as well as part of.
I don't know, that's.
What I would recommend, everybody needs to sit down, read this in private. Please get back to me with any concerns, and then I think we need to move ahead with this in some form quickly, so that we can get the plans done, so we can get the demolition done.
So I guess we're discussing this now and not in whole business.
I wanted to do this in all business,
Right.
but it does pertain to this.
Keep going on the ride.
I read the whole thing already, I've had that, I was actually given that before the last council meeting.
Cool.
It's an excellent proposal, and I think it,
How come you got it 2 weeks ago and not now?
I don't know, but I got it before. I've had it before. I think it's a very good proposal. I think he's suggesting in the proposal to do a lot more than I thought he was going to. But I think it's awesome that he will be doing it. So that's my opinion. I think it's awesome when he's going to be walking us through a lot of stuff, which I think we need. That's my opinion.
I have to say that the July 14th date at the top concerns me. After what I just said about slow walking, I mean, this thing has been prepared for a month, and I'm seeing it tonight for the first time. I am not a happy camper about that.
I agree. That's why, but please, everyone,
And maybe we have to have a work session after we've all had a chance to study it.
yeah.
So, because I'd love to hear what everybody else is thinking at the same time. I think that's beneficial.
Okay, Resolution 56, 2014, a resolution to promote James Siegfried to the position of sergeant in the Reminderville Police Department effective September 1st, 2014, first reading. Resolution 57, 2014, a resolution authorizing a $1,000 donation to the Anthony Paul CD release concert, first reading.
Can we talk about that? Is this different than the original donation that we gave him?
Start September, whatever.
Or is this another one?
No, it's the same one, the wording had to be changed.
Okay, so this is
It's,
when he.
the amount has not changed.
Okay, I just didn't want this to be another one.
No,
This
no,
is the
no.
second installment.
Yeah, that's what
No,
I was
no,
afraid
no,
of.
no,
Okay,
the amount hasn't changed.
okay. If this is the original one that we did, we're just changing the wording or not? Okay.
Okay, resolution 58, 2014, a resolution authorizing a $1,600 donation to the Aurora Shores Homeowners Association for the 4th of July celebration and declaring an emergency, first reading. Resolution 59, 2014, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to enter into and execute an agreement with Kevin Rudick for website design redevelopment of Reminderville.com for a sum not to exceed $5,000. Resolution 60, 2014, a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor to enter and execute an agreement for the purchase of real property located at 20591 Georgia Street in Reminderville, Ohio, for a sum not to exceed $50,000. Jeff?
Can we amend the sergeant one to September 9th instead of September 1st, please?
Yes, sir.
That ordinance 60 with the purchase of the real estate, that's not being asked by emergency.
No.
Okay, good.
That's the two lots behind Heritage Hall. So everyone's aware of this.
Mario, I apologize, I forgot to mention the two ordinances that have to do with appropriations and transfers. If we're not having a second meeting in August, I would need those to be passed by emergency because there are bills that are due that I need to pay. And also the donation for Anthony Paul. His concert was already passed, and I understand there was a little confusion about, there was a motion initially or something, and it was put in the wrong name. So he has been told that he would receive that donation. So if you could pass that by emergency as well. Thank you.
Old business?
I'd like to bring up a couple of things that we talked about at the last meeting. One of them was in regards to coming to some kind of conclusion on our policy with the fire department and with the police department on hospitalization. We said that we would talk about that and that we would be prepared for that. I do want to thank Stacy for the research that she did to find out what other communities are doing. I think it's pretty clear that in most cases, police and fire are not being covered. And for that matter, if you look at councils, I think out of the 22 villages and cities that were looked at, I think there were only 4 where council people are getting their hospitalization covered. But it isn't that we're the only one, it is out there. There are other places doing it. I did check because the library is currently looking at the same concerns we have on part-time employees and hospitalization, and we were in contact with the state of Ohio. It appears because we're small, 25 hours is the criteria, but there's legislation currently pending that probably would be, a part-time employee is considered to be 30 hours, and that will probably pass this fall. It's already passed the House and the Senate, indications they would pass it. So basically, we're saying full-time employees start at 30 plus once they get that legislation passed. So, as sympathetic as I am, I think, to the fire department and the police department for their part-time employees, I would have difficulty voting yes on that.
I agree with that, but I think we also need to revoke council's insurance benefits as well. Because if we don't give it to the police and fire to protect us every day, there's no way council should have it too.
One of the things, and I know Stacy, you mentioned this, that the Charter Commission is going to have to respond next year to, and I'm wondering, because I did look in there, and there is no reference whatsoever as to whether or not, or, you know, what exactly our position is. And maybe that's something for the review board that will be working with that to make a recommendation and go forward with, since they have not addressed it in the original. Not full-time, part-time, but elected officials, what exactly is our status?
I don't know if that's, is that charter worthy material? If you see that in, I would imagine so, wouldn't it? I mean, that's under
That's something that
ordinances.
would typically be in there.
Would it be in the, like in the policies manual, like an employee manual instead?
If you're gonna consider them employees, they would be in the employee.
Good answer. Okay.
I mean, you could have a line in there saying elected officials are not employees and are not covered by employee. So that's what I'm really saying.
Okay.
Well, I believe it's been a while since I looked into this, and I forgot, you told me some of this info, it might have been Deb, I don't remember, it might have been Stacy. But some places you look, we are considered employees, but some places, like Opers, I think was one of them, Opers does consider us employees. So, it's
Let's
tough.
just go back to the beginning, we've been talking in circles around this since the jump. I mean, it can go either way, right, Paul? I mean, it's, like you said, it's a pretty gray area.
And even if we're not employees, we can still give
It's
to
not
them.
against the law to
Right.
provide insurance for your elected officials, or image.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Right.
That's right, but I mean, there is a precedent for other places that said they are doing it.
I think we'll probably see more and more.
Macedonia's doing it, if I remember right, Bedford was doing it, Parma's doing it.
That's what she's doing, it, they said they're just something to be.
So,
Really?
Yeah, she said sometimes people say employees, sometimes people say elected officials, so they're in the same boat.
It's not even-
I mean, I guess to your point, should we, and I guess we can do it at any point in time, but I mean, should we revisit this here towards the end of the year and either revoke
Well, I
it
think we
or-
should do it sooner than later, that way the people who are on the insurance, if we vote council to not have it anymore, have time to do whatever they need to do, so it should be sooner than later.
If you do it sooner and the legislation becomes effective where you terminate.
January 1st. I
Okay,
think
make it
would be
January 1st,
fair,
that's fine.
would be fair.
Keeping in mind that employees do have enrollment periods. And I don't know who has
Usually
insurance
at the
and
end of
who, and when the enrollment periods are being given. If you're a new employee, it's one thing, but enrollment periods can be a tricky thing.
Well, but to Tom's point, you could revoke and say, but it doesn't go into effect until January 1st, 2015. Like you have it throughout the end of the year.
Yeah, let's say your enrollment area, and your enrollment period
Usually
is
they're
at a
at-
different time.
Right. I mean,
Usually they're.
just speaking for my company, they're towards the end of the year.
Yeah.
like I said last meeting, I'm not smart enough to know what the right answer is, but I think everyone deserves an answer. So whatever we decide, let's get to it, so that people know how to plan.
Not sure there is a right answer.
You really think that?
I don't think there is a right
Oh, that's
answer
what I
for
agree.
everybody.
Yeah,
It's just
it's very different.
where
But
you're.
it needs to be consistent, whatever we felt.
Yes. And then the second thing that I'd like to bring up on our whole business is, last time I asked that we have a regular report, that we start to get to the community, what is happening with the fitness center, so I wanted the fact that it was put in today's report from the building committee. I would almost like it to be a separate category, so that when we have the committee of the whole, there's an actual each time report that comes out to the public, so they know what progress we're making in this.
I guess to that end, I mean, with this and with the whole, can't figure out how to demo a building, I mean, I don't think we're off to the best start, so I mean, maybe we just
Yeah,
need to. I'm just,
But everyone
Speaking
should,
of-
but everyone should know.
but we're all like different levels of knowledge of just even the demo and the Pontia, you know, so. But maybe
would just say this as a practical pointer. You would not violate sunshine laws for calling another council member in between meetings and discussing this. As long as four of you are not sitting down somewhere to discuss this business, you can sit down, three of you can sit down, you can go have coffee together. Please feel free to make phone calls when you want to discuss something with other council members. I mean, that's the way it works. I think it'll relieve a lot of problems. It seems to me like a lot of you guys never talk outside of council meetings. It just seems that way. I'm probably off base, but feel free to talk with one another so that when you come in here, it's harder to think and come up with an answer when everything's going on at night. Talk about these things in between the meetings and you'll be better prepared for the meetings. You will not be violating the sunshine law whatsoever.
I guess I agree with Paul, maybe we should, Stacy, I don't know, is it simple enough just to add a line item to the record?
Yeah, I mean, I can just tell Terry when he's doing it to just do his building report and then just have the rec center right after that.
I want to go back to discussing the thing with the healthcare. Every time we discuss it and then nothing happens and we go to the next meeting and discuss, let's decide something now. Do we want to write up some kind of legislation now, or we just keep putting this off and off? And we've had plenty of time to think about this. I know which way I want to go. I'm already prepared to ask Paul to write up legislation the way I feel. Are we at that point? Should we just do that and vote on it? Or
Well, wait a second. Now, I don't get my health care covered. Some people do. Some people don't. And I personally, we passed legislation on this. We provide council health care. And I think this is a second tip by the opposition. I think people who get health care ought to continue to get it. And I'm not one of them. But I'm not willing to take it away from them. We made this decision some time ago.
What we didn't decide was on police and fire. That was really
That was
the issue, not, right. I understand what you're saying. I don't get any health care through the village either, but I also have, it's easy for me to say that because I have a nice health care package coming from my retirement program. But I understand for the people who are taking it now to pull it out from them, how fair is that? It's already been determined that they were getting it.
well, there was a lot more involved than just us voting for it. When we originally voted for it, we were, I don't want to use the word scared, but because me picking up fancy words, I'll use the word scared, of Obamacare, and that we were almost forced, even though it was an interim raise, according to some people, or interim benefit addition, whatever. But we thought we had to do it because of Obamacare. It seems, in retrospect, that we were incorrect with that, and I don't see anything wrong. I'm not afraid to admit maybe we did that wrong, and changing it and fixing what I feel was a mistake in the first place. Just because we made a mistake, in my opinion, we made a mistake, doesn't mean that mistake should go on forever. I think there's nothing wrong with voting for it again and fixing a mistake, if you feel there was a mistake, and I do.
I will say this, on the letter that we received back from the state insurance agency who monitors this, and it happened to be, I think, the chairman of that group, she indicated that everything changes in 2016. As it appears right now, the ruling she gave the library say is open to revision probably in the year 2016, because that's when a lot of the things that were delayed kick in. So she was sort of giving us an answer for a year, not for the rest of our lives.
So that's my opinion. Obviously, not everybody has to agree with it.
And I'm one of the people who do get the health care, and we made a quick decision. I had to make a quick decision whether to stay on my companies or go with the villages. I chose to go with villages, and to be honest with you, next year if we revoke it, I'll get rid of it. You know, I'm fine one way or the other.
But it's whether it's right or wrong, not whether or not you're getting it or not getting it, because I'm not getting it either. I'm not, it's just, trying to do what I feel is right.
Everybody's making amends. I made my point perfectly clear the first vote, so you know exactly how I'm gonna vote if it's brought up again.
How did you vote? Because I wasn't here.
Voted no. I knew I was doing,
I still feel that, it'd be a dirty trick to pull it back from them at this point in time. And I think that we made the vote with the best information we had,
And we did.
and, but I perceive this as another method that people voted no originally to, bring it back to the table and maybe push it through as a no, and I don't like that. I don't think that's fair or clean. Time for debate was when we originally passed it.
Are we ever gonna get some concrete, are we gonna put something in place that says we are or not, are we elected officials, employees, and what are we gonna do about the police and fire part-time? I mean, you know,
Well, if I'm an employee, I have a lot of bosses, and I don't know of no other village employees, with the possible exception of the mayor, if he's an employee, that have to run for election. They're not employees.
Well, am I right, Stacy, there weren't any of the 22 that you had, none of them had that in their policy, they were paying hospitalization for part-time fire or police. I read that correctly?
Yeah, all of them said that if they were part-time, they were not covered. And the people, the four that did cover, I believe they were all covered as elected officials.
Yes,
They just
elected
chose
officials
to
that,
give the
and chose
benefit.
to pay them the
Yeah.
benefit, that's correct. So there were 0 out of 22, if you look at Stacy's
For the
research,
part-time.
for the part-time.
We're still not deciding anything. Paul, I'm just gonna ask you to write up legislation the way I feel, and we could vote on it, and people will vote the way they.
if you would do me a favor, just send me an email tomorrow as to what you want, and I will draft it and it'll be voted on. That's a good idea.
But only on the part-time issue for the police and fire, or we also.
No, I'm doing.
You're doing elected officials.
I actually think we should probably do those in two separate
Right, two separate.
pieces of legislation, because they were
Right.
passed by two separate pieces of legislation, so you might feel one way about council members and another way about part-time, so.
But the part-time was the question that came to council, but we're gonna defer that until we deal with council. That doesn't make any sense.
I didn't understand what you were saying.
The question of part-time coverage was the question that originally came to council. But we're not gonna deal with that question at this round. We're gonna deal with whether or not council members should have hospitalization, and that doesn't make any sense.
No, that's not what we said, we're just gonna deal with them two separate legislations, that's all I said.
Well, we're gonna deal with them at the same time.
Same time, just two separate legislations.
One for part-time, one for elected officials.
Yes.
Yes, I have another old business. I know quite a few people have received that 911, letter, whatever you wanna call it. And it actually sounds, from what I heard, that there was a good response, maybe too good of a response, people, making sure their 911 works. But I'd like to, and this was brought up in communications, I believe, if we're planning on doing any more with getting that letter out to more people, and my suggestion would be to send out that letter either in a fire department envelope or a police department envelope to every resident in the building. That way we did our best to get it to everybody. And I know we still have money in the travel account, if you will, for council, that if there's money that needs they'd be taken out of my share of travel, since I didn't travel anywhere this year. If that is a concern. If, I don't know,
Could you give me a little update on that? Is that checking the 911 lines to see if they're ringing the proper addresses?
going to the proper dispatch center.
I can tell you right now that if we're gonna do that, then we need to coordinate that with dispatch, because they're inundated with calls, and they need to have extra staffing, which we're gonna have to pay for.
And that was part of an issue that I heard is, if, Tom, you wanna comment on any of that, or have you not heard, or?
It's hard for me to comment on it, not being discouraged. You read the letter, but the issue came about when people would just pick up the phone and they read the letter, they don't pay attention to what the letter says, they read it, and they pick up the phone and dial 911. And then they ask the 911 operator, says, what's your emergency? Well, I don't have an emergency, I just want to check to see if my phone line works. That's not what the letter says.
Correct.
So if you don't follow the instructions properly, then you irritate the 911 center. So if we're going to send the letter out, we need to reword it.
Okay, that's fine.
You know, so that it's much more explicit that they are not to call 911 without preliminary phone call to the dispatch center. And that's where the
That's big
irritation
and
came.
bold right at the top,
First
right?
sentence.
And maybe
It won't
actually,
matter, because you could
I
put it
know.
in there in 3-inch letters, and they would still just pick up the phone and dial 911.
So how is rewriting gonna help it?
maybe actually,
Suggestion to send it out, then if you're gonna vote to send it out, my suggestion would be that at a minimum, the letter is rephrased or rewritten to
and actually
emphasize
have the phone
fact
number of the dispatch center maybe on there?
that it had it on there.
Did it have it on there? Okay.
It's the same problem though. We need to coordinate for staffing that we're gonna pay for if they're gonna be inundated with phone calls.
How about if we send out a letter to the village of Reminderville residents that please remember that if you should call 911, you live in Reminderville.
That was in the letter.
That was in
That
the
was in
letter.
the letter too.
But make that the whole letter. And give them a refrigerator magnet to stick next to their phone. You live in Reminderville.
That is not a bad idea with the refrigerator thing.
Great place to call home.
That's
Maybe I just need to ask for more suggestions of what we need to do to try.
Yeah,
Because the last thing I want is another resident coming to me, like happened a month ago,
Well, is there not,
bitching that,
is there a welcoming committee that we have, some form of welcoming?
well, this could be people that are already living here though. That might not necessarily help either.
True, but it's only typically for people with a hardline phone that are new residents. So, but you're right, it could be that somebody moved into the village 15 years ago and they never have called 911,
Right.
fortunately for them. And maybe they're not connected properly as well. But, and I get what you're saying, Jeff, but aside from the fact that you're irritating the dispatchers, just my personal opinion, their version of being inundated and my version of being inundated from where I spent my career is two different versions. Okay, but they're getting paid to work at the dispatch center. They're gonna get 20, 30, 40 calls a day. So what? It's not gonna be every day. Well, they gotta answer the phone 30 more times. It might irritate them. You're gonna pay for it? You're gonna pay them for that? You're already paying $30,000 a year.
Do they get hospitalization?
But I don't know the volume of calls they got, because it could be 2 with them and they get irritated.
So you haven't heard from them?
I'm sorry.
You have
And they average about 200 to 300 calls a day.
from us just checking?
No, in dispatch.
Okay.
And their request would be that we coordinate that so that they can have extra staffing on it.
But do you know how many people?
I know that there's a
Prompted that-
policy right now that's in effect with dispatch, that anytime anybody calls 911 or calls the 7475 number, if it doesn't ring up as the proper address in the Reminderville, they correct it at the 911 transfer center in Hudson. I know that is in effect.
So do we need to have a E911 day, call day?
I don't know anything about the letter that you guys are talking about. All I know is if they're gonna generate a bunch of calls, we gotta have somebody there to help
Well,
us.
that's probably.
I know, but they're not all gonna call on the same day, so how are you gonna?
I would think if you put a letter out, we could state that in there, that between the hours
Well,
of...
they still won't listen to that. No, they That's-
Look, they don't know that they live in
Letter was
Reminderville,
very
they're not gonna watch it.
straightforward.
okay.
And the other issue that I'm talking about is a lot of time, or not a lot of times, there's been an occasional time where the 911 line rings to dispatch and it shows that it is coming from an address outside of where it is. The addresses don't match up. It's not, they're calling from Nautilus and it shows that it's coming from Bellflower. And those are the ones that they correct in the transfer center.
And why we're even bringing this up, because it's not like it never happens. You know, it happens fairly frequently, and it's a direct result of the demographics and the geographics of this community, where it's coming together in 4 different counties, 2 different school districts, 2 different police departments, 2 different fire departments, 1 dispatch center. It's a mess from a communication standpoint. So it's not unusual for the dispatchers, like Chief Buck is saying, to receive a call from one of our residents who is having a problem, a serious problem, and the dispatchers are confused as to what their location is. And they dispatch our guys or his guys to an area that's completely the wrong direction. And when somebody's having a bad day, it's not the time to find out that the police department and the fire department are going to the wrong street. So because of those unique circumstances that we suffer here in this area geographically, I feel it's important, even for the long-standing residents, to verify that. It's not infrequent. And the few times that I've personally been involved with it was times when it was a very serious emergency. One of them was a teenage kid who caught his house on fire on Tradewinds Cove, and his house was burning. And the phone call went all the way to Chardon. And the dispatcher in Chardon was trying to figure out where Reminderville even was on the planet Earth while this kid's house burned.
If you make a phone call for our services on the north end of Florida, it's gonna go to Bainbridge. It's gonna hit the tower over across from the plaza, and it's gonna go to Bainbridge, and Bainbridge gonna have to transfer it back to here. There's no way of changing that, there's no way of fixing that.
That's for cell phone.
Which most people don't even have home phones anymore.
Yeah, in the letter it did say if you're using a cell phone, to make sure you tell them
Right.
that your dispatch is to Twinsburg. Now, granted, if someone's in an emergency,
So,
clearly
I
they're
think
gonna know
Ed's
that.
idea might be the best then. People are calling from cell phones, tell them you live in Reminderville.
Yeah, that was the letter to make sure you
No,
know
I,
that
yeah,
you're
just saying
busy.
that,
This letter wasn't just directed for a
but
cell
you gotta
phone.
call
Yeah, I
911.
know.
It's for both.
I mean, I think it's important that we get some kind of, I don't know the right avenue, but there's got to be a way that the individuals in this community are told.
And to me, the only way I can think of that is a letter. I mean, that's, besides knocking door to door until somebody answers it.
At this point, who has received that original letter?
It was on Facebook, it was on
The website.
the website, it was on the news flash. I can't remember if we put it on the app, but normally the people who have the app are the ones who visit to see the
They're getting
ticker
that.
and everything, yeah.
But-
So it's just the people who aren't on the computer probably.
The mayor sends out a letter periodically, can we include it in there?
You wanted to send it out to every single resident.
Every single resident in an actual envelope where people are more prone to open it than just a trifold thing stapled.
Maybe some of the extra money that I have at our disposal, but not in the budget, that's in the drug fund, maybe the communications committee could come up with some catchy slogan that we could put on refrigerator magnets, and we could be the first agency in Summit County to actually reach out to our residents who have cell phones and not home phones so that they can reach their dispatch center appropriately.
That could take 2 months and somebody could die by then. I think we need to do
Well,
something this week or next week and get it done. The letter's basically already written. You can maybe tweak it and send it out.
Maybe we can do both.
And we can do both, right, absolutely.
And we can hand those magnets out at our community events and at the 4th of July parades and everything.
Absolutely.
And we could put it in for the next 6 months, maybe in Lee's newsflash
Right.
on a monthly basis. And when the mayor does his letter, maybe it should be in there. So maybe if you do it 20 times.
Yeah. At least you could say, hey, we've done our best.
And it
And
should
that's all
be
you can do.
included in the new resident package.
You're right, which we've discussed, right?
And no, and anything communications committee can do to continue to get the message out. I mean,
You know, none of those phrases like drive sober, get pulled over,
Right.
click it or ticket, those kind of thing.
That's too fancy for me, I think.
Very good.
My slogan would be read the damn letter, that would be my slogan.
Too much to put on a refrigerator, maybe.
Yeah.
You live in Reminderville.
Stay alive, know where you live.
That's right. Good, nice.
Alright, so you're gonna tweak that and.
I'll get with Stacy and we'll rework it.
Know where you reside.
Thank you.
We'll find some format to get it out. I appreciate you even bringing that up, because
It's
we
important.
spend a lot of time arguing about a lot of stuff down there that really isn't important, and that,
Right.
to me, that's important.
Great.
That's a good one, Paul.
Okay, that's my, old business.
Anybody else? New business?
I'll just.
I got one that I pushed a while back that I kind of dropped as the expenses for the rec center, grown and grown. But we're thinking about that property behind the old rec center, and right across the street, there's a parcel that's 6 times as big. That's for sale for about $80,000. Right next to our current little tiny park there. That space in Reminderville is running out fast, and I think we might be missing an opportunity there.
Where's that at?
Anita Williams.
The Williamson's property.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna check the updated, but I think the last time I looked, it was 80,000.
I think it's something to look into, absolutely.
I mean, you might think, well, what are you gonna do with it? Well, who knew we were gonna have a community garden 5 years ago? And that's working out great.
That's a lot of vegetables.
Any other new business?
I was just gonna, and this is kind of old, but, just to throw out to the group again that, we gotta start getting some people in line for that, charter review commission. So, you have people in mind, when you get it, when you get some.
Anyone else?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Call on adjournment.
Mr. Silverston? Mr. Walter?
Yeah.
Mr. Harlan?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes, like the old
Mr.
days.
Condit?
Yeah.
Mr. Molina?
Yes.
You weren't here. There was a lot of 11:30.
That's a great idea. I go straight. I think, you know what I think?
How I understand it is, because it's put in
Because they advertise Aurora.
it was not the original one,
Award-winning Toyota school districts, and then at the very bottom, in little tiny letters that nobody sees, remind you, but you know that honestly, they may you can afford a $300,000 house, you should know where you live. But
That's Ed's idea.
I'm telling you, I can't ever find the junk that I get in the mail, but I know my pizza place's number and my kid's school number.